last week we talked about, and you brought up, and really you were bragging a little bit about your prediction of what would happen in the court system. Not necessarily saying what you favored or didn't favor, but just what would happen. Everyone that listens to our program regularly knows that you're trying to represent the position of management so that people know what to do as they're trying to lead and run a business. And for those that are listening for the first time today, what we had is we had a paid sick leave law that voters in the state of Missouri voted on. And then our state Congress, I guess, has turned that decision around. And that's got a lot of people stirred up. And because you were sharing the outcome of that prediction, now people, man, they're jumping on you, and some of them me, and I don't appreciate you dragging me down with you, Bert,
Hey,
as
Phil,
we
that's
do
that's
that.
what I'm good for. I'm good for dragging you down.
Yeah, my mother told me about friends like
Yep.
you. All
Uh-huh.
right. Okay. So when we talk about this, we're not talking about our opinion of whether or not we think this law is good or bad for individuals. We're talking about what these laws and regulations and the things that we have to deal with that involve people from an employer's point of view, not from every individual point of view. And so the simple argument is, well, if it's good for every individual or if it's good for people, then it must be good for employers. And that's not always true, right? Because employers have to then pay for things and they have to administrate things, and they may not have the ability, technology, or financial ability to even do those things. And then that may not be good for people. So it's a big vicious circle. But we fired people up in the comment section on that. And I really don't like what the state of Missouri, what the government did. I don't like that we can vote on something and it can be changed because the voters voted, and that to me should be the way that it is. The fact that this changed, there's a lot of reasons that they did that. Maybe you can give us some insight on what the issues were from your point of view, that why did our legislation change this voter outcome?
Yeah, well, I want to make it very clear. What I was quote unquote bragging about last week was the accuracy of my prediction, not the result of what happened. Although I do agree with the result of what happened. Again, from my perspective on what's good, ultimately good is good for business is ultimately what's good for the employees. So again, what I was touting was the accuracy of the prediction.
Right.
And again, people are going to vary on whether they think what the legislature did was a good idea or a bad idea. One thing I can say is that the law in and of itself was horribly, horribly written. It was very
Absolutely.
vague. It
Very
was
difficult to comply with. A waste of time for most employers that already
100%.
provided more than what the law was requesting.
100%. So it was horribly written. It was very vague. And so from my perspective, the law was an awful law in and of itself. The policy goal behind it may be very good, but the fact of the matter is that outside the restaurant, retail, and hospitality sector, most employers provide for sick time or vacation time or paid time off that was well in excess of what this law required. But again, that's kind of commentary on the side. I think that what some people missed is the fact that we are the show is really from the employer's perspective, not necessarily from the employee's perspective, although oftentimes those things go hand in hand. But I'm looking out for what I believe is best for business because I think a rising tide floats all boats. And
Yeah.
if the business is doing well, if the economy is doing well, that the government shouldn't necessarily be interfering and mandating and shifting costs onto the employer, that the market should work. And when the market works, if employees are demanding certain benefits, then the employers will eventually provide those benefits. Maybe that's an optimistic outlook, but that's my outlook nonetheless.
Nonetheless, no, I like it. It's good stuff. So we will ruffle some feathers here and
Yep.
there. Stay along for the ride, and it's a good thing. I like when we spark the interest of our listeners. Nevertheless, and one of my favorite comments was is that we had a big MAGA supporter who works in the food industry, and I like the fact of their position. And I've not hidden this. I've been very open about it. Like, I voted for this. I voted for the increase in minimum wage and for the sick time. I understood what I was voting for. I did not understand how horribly written the compliance was that we would have to deal with. And I can tell you, by working with hundreds, I mean hundreds of Missouri employers, pushing up close to 1,000, that not one single employer that I worked with felt like this was a convenient, easy, and there was a million ways to do it better than what we did. And it is upon our legislators to get it right, and to not create that burden. And I think that's the position I was coming from in that as well.